Hello, my name is John,
And I'm Alan.
and welcome to whatever it's called, where everything's made up and the points don't matter. That's right, it's just like arguing with a liberal. So, to bring it back, let's discuss things that are happening in the real world right now. Like, for example, Donald Trump threatens to pull funding from UC Berkeley after a little minor incident where, domestic terrorists shut down free speech. And I know, we're gonna get people bitching about calling them terrorists. Let's talk about the definition of terrorism, since, of course, rational discussion begins with definitions. The definition of a terrorist is a person who commits unlawful acts of violence, especially against civilians, in pursuit of political aims. Let's see. Beating people with flagpoles. Do you suppose that would be the unlawful use of violence against civilians?
I consider that an unlawful use of violence.
And Antifa's political aims are well established. So yes, it is domestic terrorism. So
Go ahead.
yeah, under the definition of terrorism, we use words properly. We use words as their definition demands. Deal with it. Okay? What really gets me, though, about this whole issue is this outrage over this threat to pull funding. And what's interesting is it's being framed as this sort of intellectuals from UC Berkeley versus authoritarian Trump. And when you think about that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because universities suppressing dissent and supporting those that do so with violence are somehow considered to be, by these people that criticize Trump over this, they're somehow considered to be anti-authoritarian and pro-intellectual. Whereas Trump, suggesting the groups that impede others' inherent rights, including access to free discussion and debate, is somehow anti-intellectual and authoritarian.
Well, anything to promote certain agendas, everything is justifiable for utopia. And of course, anything to the right of Antifa is a Nazi, and as we all know, it's fine to punch a Nazi.
Oh, we'll be getting to that, I can guarantee you. But, for now, let's... I mean, because thing is that universities themselves, like you said, anything justifies utopia. And that includes, fascism, which is what's happening.
Bashing people with metal poles who are just there, who are most likely there in support of you because you call them a Nazi or someone calls them a Nazi and you immediately jump to physical violence.
Yeah. And that's... I don't know, that sounds a little authoritarian, don't you think? And the fact that universities have started to support this kind of stuff, they've actually started to become anti-intellectual and pro-authoritarian through the suppression of discussion, debate, and dissent. Now, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that, right? We'll get to how that works and what that actually means. And I think that, it's an interesting discussion. But let's just deal for a second with the fact that this isn't like him shutting down UC Berkeley. This is him just pulling federal funding. And the claim that what this means is that, oh, he wants to shut down UC Berkeley. He doesn't support UC Berkeley, all this kind of stuff. This is if you apply this very same logic to lack of government fundings in other ways, in other areas, this logic demands that governments oppose churches. And if you oppose government funding of churches, you are anti-religious. You are anti-religion. And worse, because the religion themselves, the religion themselves, not any actual rational debate and discussion about it comes to this conclusion because the churches themselves claim that that religion is necessary for morality. It means you're anti-morality. Not exactly a good argument, is it? Because this isn't reducing an argument to absurdity, right? This isn't reducto ad absurdum. Right. This is simply applying this logic to other areas that where the government is not putting funding, where you don't support the government putting funding, right? Because the university themselves declare themselves to be intellectuals and anti-authoritarian, even though they're practicing authoritarian, values, you want to call it that. The church themselves declare themselves to be pro-morality, and that morality comes from religion. And so by letting the universities define themselves without any debate or discussion or conclusions based on evidence, what the evidence actually shows, by letting them define themselves as intellectuals and anti-authoritarian, what you're doing is, if you give that power to others, as they should be allowed to have it, you can't just have one person having all the power to define everything, right? If they're allowed to define themselves, then churches are also allowed to define themselves.
Well, that's the ultimate.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to point out
you're fine. Go ahead.
That churches being, non-profit organizations is not the same. Not taking their money is not the same as funding them, especially when you consider the fact that how much of UC Berkeley's funding comes from the government, right?
How many FAFSA loans are there?
What now?
FAFSA loans, government-funded student loans. I mean, funding always goes.
Oh, FAFSA. Yeah. No, FAFSA. I remember that. Yeah. Okay. What is it for? Federal aid for? No, I forget. I forget what it stands for.
But fine. We know what we're talking about when we say a student loan, a government-sponsored student loan.
Right. Government guarantees these students loans, and anyway, but so that's anyway. So moving on. Just one of so here's one of the university's top administrators, and for the life of me, I can't remember exactly what position he served in. I can't find this comment. I really didn't feel like bothering. He insisted that pulling government funding would be awful, which of course it would be for him, because he'd have to get a real job where his ability actually mattered, rather than pandering to the most immature, violent students, right? And the thing is that if you need money from the government, you're not providing actual value, right? If there's value there, you don't need the government, because people will give you money for that value, for what you are producing, which is valuable, okay? So the value isn't there if they need most of their funding from the government rather than from people giving it to them voluntarily. If this education, which is, it's not an education, we'll go into that in a bit, is actually worth what they're charging, people give that voluntarily, rather than having to take it from the government. And furthermore, he framed it as he framed UC Berkeley as important for enlightening people, by supporting efforts to quash dissent and debate.
Well, of course, you're either with us or you're against us. I mean, that's the whole point. You're taught, in quotation marks, what is right, what is wrong in the political sphere of things. And if you disagree with that, or you have a dissenting opinion, you're a Nazi, you're a misogynist, you're a racist, you're everything in the book that they can hurl at you to squash any kind of dissent you have, because they can't argue with you on an intellectual level. They've lost that ability because they've been pandered to for so long.
Oh, we'll get to that. I actually have it in my notes where we're going to be discussing the difference between education and indoctrination, and that's actually an important point in that right there. So, another thing, it insisted that Milo spread hate speech, right? Milo spreads hate speech. But he didn't provide any definition for it, which, that's the beginning of rational discussion, is you provide definition. We provide a definition for terrorism. They fit that definition. We're using words properly. What are you doing? You say that he's spreading hate speech, but he provides no definition for it. And really, with modern day liberals, it seems to be defined as anything that proves us wrong. And he didn't provide any evidence to support that claim, right? So he's not providing a definition for it, and he's not providing evidence that Milo was saying fits that definition. And so if this university is so good at enlightening people, why is he so ignorant about how to have a rational discussion? You know why? It's probably because he shuts that stuff down anytime it pops up.
It's like I just said, there's no such thing as a rational discussion. You can't have two competing ideologies have, a Hellenistic dialectic and come together and form a synthesis and become stronger for that, and you come to a conclusion of what is right, what is truth. It's all, no, this is our dogma. We will not have it questioned.
Should be important to note when you say that. It's not that you can't have that. You can.
You can, but in the current climate.
People of different ideologies do all the time in the current climate. It's just that this specific ideology refuses that. It absolutely refuses that. That stuff is not allowed. Right? By the way, not sure if you heard about this. This isn't specific to UC Berkeley, but this is in the college system as a whole. Just the other day, students were arrested by campus police at a college campus for passing out pocket copies of the Constitution.
I remember hearing something about this, but I'm not sure about the full story.
This also happened a couple of years ago, by the way. This isn't the first time that it has happened.
What's the justification?
Oh, that they're interfering with people or something like that. It's like, saying, oh, hey, do you like freedom? Here's a copy of the Constitution. The fact that that person is stopped for 2 seconds is not allowed.
Okay, then what about all the other ones on campus that are passing out flyers and stopping them there?
Yeah, again, double standard, right? And because universities have started to appeal to the most immature, the most incapable of reasoning, the most incapable of all this kind of stuff.
Safe space.
This is something we've got to go into in a future podcast about why this has happened. Because there is actually a reason for it. There's a reason why the university business model has changed over the past 50 years or so. From, being about, the most intellectually capable individuals to the most, to coddling the most immature, the most tantrum-prone individuals. But it's something we're going to have to go into in a future podcast. I have I really want to discuss this. This is something that I've really wanted to discuss for a really long time. But there's not going to be enough time. We're already 15 minutes in. You realize that?
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So I want to stress something here, though. Is that it is possible for authoritarians to produce people that are really good at, things like mathematics and all this kind of stuff. For example, Soviet Russia was the first to space, if I remember correctly. They were the first to space, right?
It depends on your definition of first in space. If you mean like Sputnik and stuff like that, then yes.
Yes, okay. That's what I was thinking of. And they also conducted the Siberian fox experiment. I don't know if you heard about this. Have you?
I have never heard anything about the Siberian fox experiment.
Oh my God! This is one of the great tragedies of this kind of is because the Siberian fox experiment has so many huge findings for evolution, so many really important findings for evolution. It's so vital to our understanding of it, and nobody talks about it. it's amazing, and I want to go into it in a future video, in a future podcast, because this whole thing about, you know, with it, evolution is just really, it explains so much if you're doing that. But anyway, and Soviet Russia was also really good at producing propaganda that was believed by the Western press, which actually, when you think about it, is not really that big of an accomplishment. See, it doesn't speak of the ability of those indoctrinated into these systems to have independent thoughts, nor emotional maturity, ability to have rational discussions, or to pick apart competing evidence. And this is the difference between education and indoctrination. Education is when people are taught how to analyze evidence and use reasoning and debate to obtain knowledge from that evidence. Indoctrination, on the flip side, is when people are taught that something is true, don't question it, and possibly how to look like you're informed when you're not, to people that aren't informed. And generally it also advocates for them to shut down any dissenters. I wonder why. And so many colleges today don't educate, they indoctrinate. So some of what colleges teach is true, and this is part of the danger of indoctrination, is that always some of what they teach will be true. Some of what they indoctrinate you into will be true. But it won't necessarily all be, and sometimes the truth that they teach you will be misleading. It will be technically true, but not produce a clear picture of the world as it exists, right? And so this is the difference between indoctrination and education, and colleges indoctrinating rather than educating. And the thing is that truly educated people do not react in the way that the terrorists, again, using that term properly, at UC Berkeley did. Because truly educated people are more interested in discussion and debate. Whereas people that are indoctrinated are interested in shutting down discussion and debate. Ergo, UC Berkeley is indoctrinating, not educating. And this is common throughout the college systems, which is why you see things like, you know, like you mentioned, safe spaces and all this kind of stuff. It's because if discussion and debate are so intolerable to you, it's because you have been indoctrinated, not educated. By the way, final note on this, conspiracy theorists are claiming it was people on the right, and this is in spite of people on the left cheering it on and celebrating it, and Antifa bragging about it. And the fact that one of the terrorists was actually identified through citizen journalism, because heaven forbid the media insisting that it must have been people on the right would bother to actually investigate this. And he was identified as being a member of the UC Berkeley staff. He's a digital comms specialist.
Of course. But I mean, we already know that mainstream media isn't going to report anything negative on this because it's all fake news. That's all CNN, MSNBC, all of it's fake news.
Oh, and I would love to define that term as I did with education, indoctrination, and terrorism, and then provide evidence to support that, but I'm going to have to get back to that. I imagine we'll probably do that fairly soon. So, that's mine. That's my thing for today, for now. What about you? What do you want to discuss today?
I really want to talk about this because gun rights are near and dear to my heart.
I know.
Yep. I am a firm believer in the Second Amendment, and I will support it until the day I die. I want to talk about how the House did something right, and I'm so happy for it. As of last week, they've shut down a bill that the Obama administration was trying to put in place to have the Social Security Service send information to the National Criminal Background Check Administration. I forget the actual acronym for it. I think it's NICS. For people who who are receiving benefits from them who have mental illnesses or mental inability or need assistance with their services, in order to flag them if they needed to be flagged when purchasing a gun. So this strike down says, no, you can't do this. People have the right to purchase guns even if they're on Social Security.
Yeah, and this is actually something that is close to my heart too, because something that those listening might not know, I'm autistic. And I've been under a lot of pressure in the past to apply for disability based on my autism. And I have to wonder if this would disallow me from owning a firearm. Even though there's really no reason why I shouldn't be able to own a firearm, I have to wonder if that would be the case. If this rule that the House struck down, or the House voted to get the heck out of there, I have to wonder if, like, okay, well now, like, one of the ways that I thought that that I could kind of not really earn an income but reduce my expenses was to go hunting, right? Which is, it's not like a huge thing, because the cost of hunting is fairly high.
It's ludicrous for what it should be.
Well, maybe we'll go into why that is in a future podcast, but but it would help, right? It would help. It would help reduce my expenses to go hunting. Now, I don't have a gun. My sister, she has a friend who's really into hunting and would be really interested in going with me, but that, like I said, I don't have a gun right now. I might get one in the future. I might go hunting. Would this stop me from being able to buy just like a Lee Enfield? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to try and say absolutely that it would, but it certainly seems like it would. Now, my mother, she's on disability, and she's considered disabled. She's schizophrenic, but she's on her medication. And she has no issues. Now, she would never own a gun. She's super incredibly peacenik. She would never own a gun. She would never want to have it around the house. And this almost certainly would stop her from buying a gun, though. So if she changed her mind about that, if something like that, I don't, like, this is absolutely wrong. That's not okay.
And here's my ultimate thing for this. You have two separate agencies. One is dealing with criminal background checks to ensure that people are not, people who should not have guns, which we can get into that later, don't have them, and people that should have guns and are legal to have them can have them. The issue is, why is it then that people who have never broken the law, why is their mental health, because let's face it, there's a lot that this mental health covers, why are their information being placed in this criminal database saying, like, red flagging them because they have schizophrenia or something, where they have the potential to be harmful to self or others? I dislike the word potential because it just implies, because everyone has the potential to be harmed for self or others.
Yeah, you can't know. Like, the thing is, like, no, I disagree with that. Not everyone has the potential for that, but you can't know just on putting them in a particular group, even with diagnostic terms. Schizophrenics, autists. Like I said, my mom's super freaking peacenik. She would never want to own a gun, right?
It's
like she doesn't have the capability to be a harm to her to others. But this would still treat her as that, just because of this particular diagnosis that. Anyway, so you were saying?
Well, you've also got other places like, this isn't uncommon. I mean, we have people that are on the no-fly list who have never flown a day in their lives, but because they're on the no-fly list, they couldn't get a gun. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and no, it's not just it's not and people on the no-fly list that really very much there's no real reason for them to be there, other than the, the which by the way actually that's another thing that's really dangerous. They spoke out against the government, and so they're on the no-fly list. It has been used for that in the past.
Well, let's be clear. They spoke out against a certain regime because apparently you can make death threats all you want to a certain one and no one gives a shit.
To be fair, it also happened in the one previous, right? Okay, but let's move away from that for a second.
Let's play the scale game. Let's play the scale game.
The danger, the danger of, well, okay, so if you criticize the government, then you're not allowed to own a gun, and even if that, the whole no-fly list, that thing falls short. The fact of the matter is that the government is the main funder for scientific research in the United States, and I think in the world, really, is that the governments fund scientific research more so than any other group. And let's I'm gonna have to save the dispelling of the idea that that government funded research is unbiased for a future podcast. But the issue here is that there is that potential because governments have pulled funding from dissenting scientists before, and pushed funding for scientists that have, helped them, that have helped the government. This is the United States government, right? This isn't even Soviet Russia. Soviet Russia did that a lot. Oh boy. But this is the United States this has happened, right? What's to stop the government from funding research that ties distrust in the government with violent tendencies and can and ends up becoming a diagnosis?
Or suicide rates with gun ownership, because that's a real thing. Because a lot of people don't know that gun violence and gun deaths include suicide in there.
Oh boy, let's not. We were going to that. We'd have to talk about how men are more likely to own guns. They're also more likely to commit suicide. Elderly people are more likely to to own guns. Massively more likely to commit suicide, and so on and so forth. The correlations are there. There are so many. There's so many confounding variables involved in that you can't really say. I mean, they say correlation does not imply causation. That's kind of misleading.
My argument isn't anything about that. My argument is that they are presenting research, facts, and evidence that's misleading. That's purposely misleading.
Oh right, no. Yeah, because gun deaths but even if you talk about like gun ownership and suicide, even if you talk about that, like how like the correlation between the two, and you don't address the confounding variables, well, you could still say, oh well, desire to own a gun is suicide correlated with suicidal tendencies. We should start diagnosing these people. We should start, like for example, if you have a depression questionnaire, right?
Right. Putting
desire to own a gun on there, because there's a correlation. It's not a sound correlation. It's not a sound correlation that would imply causation at all.
There's a tick there.
Right. So like you were saying, you could use misleading research to justify this stuff.
And just, I need to stress this here. I am for everyone being able to defend themselves the best they can. I hate the notion of stripping the rights to defend someone's self who's been peaceful their entire lives. I absolutely abhor the fact that someone who's been peaceful can have that right stripped from them, because it's the most important right we have. It ensures the others. I don't care if you want to argue with me about, but we'd have less deaths if there were less guns. I disagree with you on that. People will find other ways. Well, criminals, again, you don't understand how easy it is to make a firearm. If your argument is if we ban guns or if we got rid of less guns, criminals would have less guns. It's completely false. People need to be able to defend themselves from all threats, foreign and domestic. If that means Joe Schmo who's trying to kick in your back door, take your stuff from you, you should be able to point a shotgun at him and make sure you're safe. If it means the government Nazi stepping, goose stepping, anything coming and trying kicking your door, you have a right to protect yourself from that.
I agree. That's the whole purpose of the Second Amendment, because there are multiple ways that the government can fail to protect its citizens.
Well, it already fails to protect its citizens. Look at police response rate nationwide. It's ridiculous.
That's not something, like, unless you're willing to have like half of the US population be police and have them in your house at all times,
which would break another amendment.
Yeah. It's not something that can be stopped. You can't prevent that from being the case. And that's why the Second Amendment exists, is because it is not just for that. Not just for that. Is the multiple ways in which a government can fail to protect its citizens, and the recognition that this is just something that will happen. It's not something that could happen. It's not something that might happen. It's something that will happen, and something that does happen.
It's just because I'm such a strong self-determinist. I think all people have that right. You have the ability to self-determine, and I will help you protect that right. Case in point, story I've told you a couple times is from a few months back, where I did have someone try and kick in my back door. He wanted to try and kick in the back door. I had no idea. I didn't know the man. All I knew was there was a guy, he's trying to kick in my back door. What's my response? I aim a shotgun at him. He decides it's in his best interest to leave.
How long did it take the police to show up for that? Did you even call them after that?
I didn't even bother after that. I couldn't identify him. I couldn't do anything. There's no point in filing a report. If I can't identify him, all I can really do is just be like, look, some guy tried to break in. I pointed a shotgun at him. He's gone.
In other words, there's no chance at all for a newspaper to be reporting on that. That wouldn't be part of the statistics of homeowners defending themselves with guns, anything like that.
Well, I never even had to fire the gun either, because that's another thing with guns is the vast majority of them is just the presence of the gun ends the confrontation.
Oh yeah, burglars fear confronting a gun owner more than running into the police.
Talk about the rise of hot burglaries in certain European nations.
Okay, do you want to discuss more about that? By the way,
about guns or
about the House taking down that voting against that.
I think it showed the House is listening, and I'm grateful for that, because it was 231, I believe, to 180. So it was a massive victory.
Yeah.
So it shows the House is listening, and that means something to me, because it's like we haven't been listened to in forever. Let's be honest.
Well, politicians are cowards. You know, like what they see, what has been happening, how people are reacting to what they've been doing and what they want. Politicians are cowards. That's the way of things, and so they're not going to try and we think people should have their rights taken away based on potential danger.
What is who? I forget his name, and I feel terrible for it. He's the head of the Congressional Ethics Committee
I don't
from
know.
South Carolina.
Oh. No. Shoot, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
We'll figure it out. We'll put it in the description. Shout out to my homeboy. You are a man of men. Just there's really not much. It's just something where it shows at least we're taking steps in the right direction. And I think we should take solace in the fact that, yes, we do have the right to defend ourselves, and we should embrace that. I'm not saying everyone should have a gun. I'm not saying that. I think everyone has the right to defend themselves, and I think everyone has the right to self-determine. If something stands in your way of self-determining, you have the right to use as much force as you think is needed to stop that. And I will always stand beside that.
It was Trey Gowdy, by the way.
Shout out to my boy.
Yeah. Is there something for him? You know, like can't stump the Trump, can't barrage the Farage, that sort of stuff. Is there something?
No, I don't think so. But
oh my god,
if I was a South Carolinian, I would have wrote his name in.
Ye gods, man. I gotta move to South Carolina to his district because that's where I want to be. Those sound like the people voting for him. They sound like my kind of people. I'll tell you that.
I know, right? Like I'm like 20 minutes from them or something.
Move,
great folks.
Move.
I would if I could, man, but money's an issue. Maybe it won't be in a little bit, but I don't know. Anyway, that's really all I have to say on that subject.
Okay. Well, it seems we've gone over by about 10 minutes already. This was a bit of a longer one, though. I had more than a page of notes on that issue. My next one, the next topic I want to discuss, I have 6 lines. So we're not going to discuss this podcast. We're going to discuss another one. But favorite Twitter conversation of the week. Let's get into that. Hold on a second. So here it is. This was me. Left freaking out about Gorsuch. That's the Trump's Supreme Court nominee. Supreme Court, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say Supreme Court nominee. Wait, hold on. His perspective, yeah. Anyway, so his Supreme Court nominee, his choice for the Supreme Court, left freaking out about Gorsuch trolling leftists with a club called Fascism Forever while celebrating actual fascists at UC Berkeley. By the way, that club, turns out it never actually existed. It was part of a senior prank. That they would put fake clubs at founded this club, and this club was actually fake. And so he trolled the leftists at his school by having his club be Fascism Forever. Anyway, Miss whatever, I don't care.
I like your first pronunciation.
I think that's what it's supposed to be, but black is white, up is down, and anti-fascists are fascists in Trump land. To which I responded, is your argument that people are defined by what they call themselves, not their actions? I take issue with that argument. Her response, I don't know if you saw this. I know you follow me on Twitter. I know you probably read my response, my initial response. When someone tells you who they are, I recommend you believe them.
Okay, I take issue with that.
So let's break this down, shall we? So a person doing a sarcastic troll as part of a senior prank. We should take that 100% seriously.
But what we shouldn't take seriously is people in the streets burning shit down, bashing people in the face who have no affiliation whatsoever, or no known affiliation. We shouldn't label them as fascists, but they're anti-fascist.
They say they're anti-fascist, so that's good enough.
Doesn't matter
what they actually do.
What's going around now? Oh, right. Fascism in the future will be called anti-fascist.
Yeah. Now, see, here's the thing. I get that she's trying to be clever by quoting Hillary Clinton. But in trying to be clever, one should first make sure that they have the requisite intellect to be clever. By the way, someone responded with, someone else, this wasn't me, responded with, "I'm Jesus Christ, now you have to believe me."
I am a Apache helicopter. If you do not identify me correctly, I will use my Hellfire missiles.
No. Move to New York City. Move to... It's a crime to misgender somebody. So... I identify as a nuclear warhead. If you misgender me, I'm going to nuke all of you. I need radioactive isotopes around me at all times. I have a 6.2 megaton detonator installed in my stomach. If I am ever angry whatsoever, it'll detonate. And don't you dare call me he.
My preferred pronoun is God Emperor of Mankind.
He. Moving on. Next
You're
thing is...
transphobic. No, I'm not. I don't care what you do.
Okay, we need to finish this. We're 15 minutes over.
Oh, we're having fun, man.
We should try a half an hour and see how that works. How did it work? I told you.
Well, then get on with it.
Okay. Anyway, so the Donald post of the week, and this is actually one that's really important to me. By Save Me Barry. I promised that I would enlist if Trump won, and yesterday I made that a reality. Ready to MAGA in the Marine Corps. This man promised to join the Marine Corps if Trump won, and he fulfilled that promise. Now, consider this. He's putting his life on the line. He's putting his life on the line. Phil promised, because Trump won, he promised that this is what he would do if Trump won. He's putting his life on the line. Now think about all these celebrities who promised they'd move to Canada and
South
haven't.
Africa if you're...
What?
South Africa if you're Jackson, but we don't... I got no respect for you.
Oh, boy! That would be putting your life on the line, actually.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
South Africa is a civilized nation. What are you talking about? Have you seen the murder rate?
Oh, gosh. To be fair, a lot of that is anti-white violence. Is anti-white genocide.
Can we talk about Zimbabwe next? Can we talk about Zimbabwe next?
But
how they ordered whites out?
Oh, God.
And then a famine started? Because they kicked out all the farmers?
Oh, real smart.
And then demanded UN intervention to help them?
What's the average IQ in Zimbabwe?
Oh, we're getting into IQ now, are we?
Well, no, it's just, the ability to plan for the future. The ability to perceive that which is not immediately present.
Podcast number 1, shut down for hate speech.
Gosh. Well, we'll see what they think about that. And I just think it's incredible. This contrast, right? Where this Trump support promised to put his life on the line if Trump won in the Marine Corps. And he joined the Marine Corps. Whereas
I've got nothing but respect for it. I really do. And anyone...
I know. I do see
and like you're getting at is just like these celebrities who are like, we're going to leave if Trump wins. And then they stay safely in the gated community that is Hollywood with their millions of US dollars that they earn by doing what? Acting? Because that's...
Pretending to be other people. Pretending to be other people.
But Alan, that's a real job. Yeah, it's a job. Anything that you can do that gets you money is a job. Do you carry the same weight as a Marine Corps member? No, you don't.
Not in the slightest. And it's just that is... It's just sheer cowardice, And I say that as someone who's never actually served in the military. Like, I mean, this is just... It's just beyond. It's unbelievable.
I was deferred, so I can't.
Oh, I probably wouldn't be able to serve. Like, I would... Like, that's... I got too much stuff wrong with me, I'll tell you that.
I'm just saying I was deferred for parental reasons.
But yeah, it's just I've got a lot of respect for Save Me Barry.
A lot of respect. Shout out, my dude.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll go ahead and link that in the comments. Or
Give
not
that
in the
man
comments.
some gold. Give that man some Reddit gold.
No, thank you. I don't support fascists.
Oh, what's that? You banned an entire subreddit because they disagreed with your platform?
It's just, gosh.
You guys are racist, misogynistic Nazis. Prove it.
Well, we'll go into that in a future podcast. For now, though, we are dangerously close to my original time limit. So I think we're gonna have to say bye. Any closing thoughts?
Fuck leftists.
Oh yeah, that's right. Never mind. Heart eye emoji to you all. To the leftists out there, hopefully we've managed to enlighten you a little bit. And to everyone else, well, hopefully we've managed to enlighten you too. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Oh, go.
Just gonna remember, debate works 1,000,000 times better than punching someone in the face. So please, pick up a goddamn book and read.